Welcome to the Scoop World Order, now exclusively on YouTube. Got a nice little partnership going there, so we appreciate them. If you guys are excited, this is going to be one of the greatest weeks in Ohio State history. Huge recruiting weekend coming. Notice of Allegations is a little bit of a chatter around there. Nevadabuck has the latest on that. It's Michigan week, hate week. Talked to a lot of people around the program, a lot of people that played in the game, a lot of people that know the game. So we're going to break all that down to take your questions as well. Again, we appreciate you guys that have been paying it forward. Signed up some new Pay It Forward members today. Again, we appreciate you guys. Email us, buckeyescoop@gmail.com. That is the quickest way for us to review your consideration for Pay It Forward. Again, that gives you concierge level access to Nevada and I on buckeyescoop.com. Again, that is a great Christmas gift for anybody, especially yourself. You guys deserve it. If you guys are huge Ohio State fans, our message board is absolutely on fire right now, and you really can't get enough of it. So if you love Ohio State football and you want to be the best, sharpest, brightest fans, and you want to give the gift of that to people, there's nothing that beats buckeyescoop.com. It's an absolute blast to be a part of, and I'd love for you guys to join the Scoop family online. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys kicking it with us each and every night. If you're gonna do something spectacular for us in the season of thanks and giving, you could give us a subscribe to Apple Podcasts. Again, we appreciate that. We're growing that. Something we've neglected, and we're trying to get that thing up to speed. So if you can subscribe to our podcast, search Buckeye Scoop on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Do both. Is huge for us. We appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you guys so much for doing that have. And also leave us a 5-star review if you want to help people find the show and help us grow Buckeye Scoop, which we are doing rapidly. But we are going to get into it because we have a loaded show tonight. Nevada, notice of allegations time, Michigan week. There's a lot of stuff. You're recruiting David Sanders Jr., tons of kids are trying to get to this game this weekend. This is one of the best weekends in Ohio State history. We are huge favorites. We're going to smash the Wolverines and right some wrongs. But imagine you want to start with the notice of allegations. What is the latest on Michigan and their NOA?
Well, as we're all aware, the notice of allegations, the first due date on the notice of allegations was today of all day. I believe the 25th was today, was the day they had to do. And they updated the NCAA dashboard and indicated that there was an extension asked for and granted by the NCAA, and then an amendment to the notice of allegations by the NCAA. So I reached out to my NCAA contact on all NCAA things and asked them what that meant. And what I got back was, we have a few extra parting gifts for Michigan. So all I can assume from that is that Michigan asked for the extension. The NCAA said, okay, well, if we're going to grant you the extension, well, then we're now going to add some additional stuff that we've uncovered to the notice obligations to, as you ponder this extension. And so, none of it's good for Michigan. All of it's bad. There was some speculation that this was like an affiliated party, or maybe one of the parties was it. I believe that's just the language that they use. They have the parties involved, and the party involved in this case would be Michigan. So my understanding is, where we sit right now, is there has been an extension granted. I believe it's 30 days that they have, but that the NCAA has added additional allegations to the charges against Michigan. So again, which brings us all back to point one, which was, for the Michigan fans that are out there going, "Oh, this is nothing. Oh, this is this." Look on the NCAA dashboard and go count the number of negotiated resolutions, and then count the number of cases that have gone to full hearing. And what you'll see is it's very, very rare for cases to go to full hearing. There is a reason why Michigan has not been able to settle this yet. There's a reason why Michigan is asking for an extension on this. There's a reason why the NCAA is adding even more charges to this, because this is not your run-of-the-mill case. And this is not the run-of-the-mill situation. And this is the furthest thing away from a nothing burger. This thing keeps growing and growing and keeps going on and going on. And again, if you're a Michigan fan, or if you're an Ohio State fan that's a little insecure, wondering about stuff, just ask yourself again, if this was nothing, why hasn't Michigan resolved this? Why are they continuing to go down this path for something that's just going to be a slap on the wrist, just going to be nothing, just going to be some probation and a $5,000 fine. Why is Michigan continuing to go down this path? And I think that when you think about it that way, you kind of realize, no, you kind of jump the logic train and you kind of go back to, wow, this really is serious. The NCAA really is asking for severe sanctions. Michigan is desperately trying to fight this stuff off, and they're at the point right now where they're not even able to meet the deadline um, for the response, and the NCAA is adding charges to it. So the hole keeps getting digger, or the hole keeps getting deeper. The old saying about when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Well, Michigan just keeps continuing to dig and dig and dig. The hole keeps getting deeper, and for me, I love it because my concern was that Michigan was going to resolve it, and part of the resolution was going to be them self-imposing a bowl ban this year. When in reality, they pretty much. I know, while they're bowl eligible, what kind of a bowl situation are they really going into this year as a 6-6 team coming off a shellacking against the Buckeyes in Columbus? Bad days ahead for Michigan, and they're just delaying the inevitable. And so I think we're gonna have to probably wait another 30 days for that. But that should get us past the date where the first notice of allegations becomes subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and I think that'll become public knowledge. And we should all have a much clearer picture about what Michigan is facing here really, really shortly.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because in my head, I'm wondering, do they take the bowl ban after the Ohio State game? I think from a PR standpoint, there's a lot of people that are like, we're waiting for like a fake COVID outbreak or ear, nose, and throat infections or something where they can cancel and get out of coming to Columbus and taking their whooping, taking their medicine this weekend. But is there any part of you that thinks that they're asking for an extension as a way of resolving this in terms of settling and taking the risk? Because again, it's like I tell people, like, look, if there's a year that I'm gonna take the ball, it's like this year. Because if you're gonna spend all that money on Underwood, on a 5-star number one quarterback, like, why would you go to the Gasparilla Bowl or the Big Mower Bowl or the Nacho Cheese Dipping Sauce Bowl and potentially risk a bowl ban when you've got a quarterback that you're paying $10 million to? Like, I'd rather just take it now. None of the players want to play, and after I've lived in it when we played in the Fiesta Bowl my freshman year, and then we played in the Alamo Bowl, and then I was also on the coaching staff in 2010. We went to the Sugar Bowl, and then in 2011 we went to the Gator Bowl, and it's like going from staying at the Ritz Carlton to staying at like the Bates Motel, like a Roach Motel. Like, it's just not. Nobody's excited about it. Coaches aren't excited about it. Players aren't excited about it. It's embarrassing to be a part of once you've been to the pinnacle. You don't want to go down to a F tier bowl game. That's where Michigan's going to go this year. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think that this is something where they're trying to get the settlement done, or do you think that they're asking for an extension so that they can, that Freedom of Information Act, that's going to drop. If it's 30 days, it's going to drop, like they're going to drop it like Christmas Eve at midnight. So they can give to the report. They'll give it on Christmas Day. They're going to hand it to the reporters and try to get it through the weekend. They'll do the classic news, Friday afternoon news dump when everybody's out of the office and nobody cares. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I've always felt that this. I mean, look, these things are always resolved via negotiated resolution. They just are. I mean, if history is any indicator, there's a reason why you don't go, to that, because you're basically, while they're separate, they're all part of the NCAA, but you've got the infractions people, and then you've got the Committee on Infractions, and they're different groups, but they're all under the NCAA umbrella. So why you would go to a full trial, to a full hearing, it just doesn't make any sense. That's why it's not done. So I've always believed that it has to be resolved, and I think that your theory is as good as any. I've always felt that this was going to end via negotiated resolution. I don't think that Michigan has really any other path on this. I think any other path just delays the inevitable and just makes it more expensive, more onerous. And I think I can tell you from talking to the people at NCAA, they are fed up with Michigan. They've had it up to here with their arrogance, with their obstinance, with their obstructing the investigation, with their destroying evidence. with with Harbaugh and his entire attitude, with Sharon Moore and his entire attitude, with Wade Ward Manuel, with everybody that they've dealt with. They've been threatened to be sued. They've been called names, and that's not playing well with the NCAA. So they are not of a mind to cut Michigan any slack. And so I think that while your theory is as good as any, and I believe those conversations they've been ongoing for the past 90 days since this notice of allegations came out. I just don't know if they're going to bear fruit because the NCAA has just refused to budge from what they're asking for. And what they're asking for is retrospective vacation of wins and prospectively postseason bans. And for Michigan, they just don't. That just doesn't leave them with much. But they just don't have. They have no cards left to play. So at this point, could that be going on? I think absolutely. But I think for the NCAA, it's like if you're going to delay this, we're going to add more onto the plate, and we're going to give more to the committee on infractions to consider once we actually go to the full hearing. So Michigan's just kind of painting themselves into a corner right now, and I'm just not really sure where they go.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a deal where, I mean, you see Will Johnson's he's gonna, puss out of the game, fake an injury, get out of it. I mean, I'm surprised Colson Loveland's not doing it, because if you don't play in the game, it's kind of like it doesn't really count. If you're not gonna dress out, then you're not gonna be. You don't have that same pain as if you're out on the field. You're getting torched by Jeremiah Smith like he would. But I would. I mean, if you. It's hard because Michigan, their athletic director is as dumb as our old athletic director, and I just can't see him pulling the trigger and doing what's right, because you got to gas this season, man. After Ohio State thumps them, like, you got to try to hit reset, and you got to try to beg for mercy. And again, like, and the other domino fell last week with Jim McElwain. Like, Jim McElwain signed a 5-year extension in 2022. He's 62 years old, and he retired. So, like, I can't wait to see what that ruling ends up being, because that'll come out, and I think that he'll surface in the NFL or somewhere. He'll be like Jim Harbaugh, where he'll skate on the penalties, because he obviously was going to get fired. They obviously uncovered eventually somebody said, hey, this is how it went down. Connor Stalions reached out to this guy. We ran it up the flagpole. We said we'll put him in a one of our shirts, and nobody will notice. And if it wasn't for Justin Spiro, I bet nobody would have noticed, because usually people aren't looking for low-level staffers and who's on the sideline for a game that small, on a team that small. Nobody really cares. Like, if you got some guy showing up on a Ohio State sideline where there's 80 million cameras and 700 guys down on the field taking photos, then you might see it. But Michigan State, Central Michigan, there's no shot. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see what comes out of that, because Michigan State is 100 times worse than what happened at Central Michigan, and Central Michigan's coach just retired as a 62-year-old who just had a 5-year. And again, you don't leave a 5-year extension on the table. When you're a coach, you either leave because you're getting a better job and you're getting more money, or you get fired, of which you still get paid. It's like, I mean, all these coaches that still had, like Tom Herman and Kevin Wilson, that had multiple years left on their contract, like, those guys get paid out. Like, you don't just get to skate on, unless you have cause where you do something stupid, then you get fired, and they could go after you for cause. But if you got years left, man, you're getting paid out. So you don't just leave. Jim McElwain's he hasn't made that much money where he could leave, $2, $3, $4 million on the table and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go retire and do whatever. Like, nobody on earth would do that in this day and age. And I would bet a decent chunk he's going to be looking for an NFL job, because he'll probably he'll be like Jim Harbaugh. He'll get the show cause where he can't coach in college football for multiple years for his part in the Connor Stalions thing. And I think he's going to end up in the NFL. Like, he'll end up somewhere and doing something, tight ends coach or something, whatever, and away he goes. Because again, you got to understand, this was Nick Saban's offensive coordinator when Alabama was really good. So there's going to be some value there, and someone's going to hire him, because you got to understand, in football, nobody is beyond. There's no such thing as unhireable when it comes to football coaches. Like, when you see what Steve Sarkisian and Tom Herman and some of these guys have done in their lives, like Bobby Petrino, like, it doesn't matter. Like if you're a good football coach, it's like your life is a giant deodorant stick. No matter how bad you stink, if you're a really good X's and O's guy, that overwhelms the stench, that deodorizing smell of being an intelligent football coach. So I think that'll be fascinating as we get into this. Nevada, it's Monday. It is game week. It is the week of the game. How are you feeling? Again, we talked earlier, and I've I've I haven't been this confident, I don't think, since 2008. I mean, '08. Rich Rod's first year when he was rolling Nick Sheridan out there as his quarterback, and I mean, just atrocious. I mean, trying to run the spread option with the guy that runs a 5.40 was a massacre in the shoe that day. That's about how I feel right now. What are your thoughts on the game as of Monday?
Yeah, I'm yeah, I always have some trepidation before the Michigan game. Whenever the game's up in Ann Arbor, I definitely have trepidation, no matter how much the talent imbalance is between the teams. And even when they're in Columbus, I always have I'm nervous, I'm concerned. I'm telling you, I have no concerns this week. I don't have any concerns this week. That Michigan has no answers for what they're going to get on Saturday, and they don't. And I've been saying it. I've been saying it all summer. I feel like I've got a really good handle on the Michigan team. I said before the season that they would be. There was always a few teams that were completely overrated by the pollsters, by the general public, and I said Michigan was one of those teams. I predicted somewhere between 7-5 and 9-3 for them. I was wrong. They're going to go 6-6. So yeah, they're going to get shellacked. And offensively, they're just not going to be able to move the ball because they don't. Their number one receiving threat by far is their tight end. They have nobody on the outside that can really threaten. And the quarterback's just going to get a big dose of blitzing. And when you got to get rid of the ball quickly like that, he's going to make mistakes. He always rolls to his right. He does the old Baker Mayfield thing where he rolls to his right and kind of drifts out there and does that stuff. They're in deep trouble, and they have been terrible against the pass all year long. Any team that could mount a competent passing attack, even when Will Johnson was out there, they struggled. And heck, Fresno State threw it against them. So what are they going to do against Ohio State? It's going to be ugly. And then when you combine that on top of the fact that Ryan Day is not going to take his foot off the gas, the starters are going to play just about the entire game. And people may go, oh, somebody might get hurt. And, I heard that same thing. It was kind of on a side note here, but, when Caleb Downs was back for punt returns, people are like, why are you putting your All-American safety? He could get hurt. Why is he? And then he takes a punt back and you're like, oh, great. We love you, Caleb. Same thing with this, man. Play the game. Go out. You laying it on Michigan. We've got 3 years of cheating to deal with on Saturday, and all the talk from from their fans, from their coaching staff, the waving goodbye, all that stuff comes to roost. The bill comes due on Saturday in the Horseshoe, and so I'm going to be there for it. I'm coming in for the game. I would not miss this one for the world, and it's going to be great. So how am I feeling? I'm feeling great. I know. I mean, the team is beyond jacked, and Michigan just they don't have the talent, they don't have the staff, and they have no answers for what is going to be coming at them on an Ohio State team that's starting to round into form. They hadn't played a perfect game yet, but getting better and better. Going to take another step on Saturday. Just beat Indiana, an undefeated top 5 team, by 23 on Saturday. This one's going to be worse this weekend, so I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think that this will be like one of those days that Ryan Day is always going to remember, because he's been beaten to, like I've said it multiple times, he's been beaten to death the last 3 years over the Michigan losses, and Harbaugh, and their douchebag defensive coordinators coaching tonight for the Chargers, waving at us going up the tunnel. Like, those guys all left. They knew they were cheating. They knew they were going to get out at the nick of time. They're going to be on the last train to Los Angeles essentially, and get out of there. But I like, I like the look of the guys I talked to today. I like the look. I like listening to kind of what their mindset is going into this thing, because as long as you just play mistake-free football, this thing won't be close. Like, it doesn't have to be close. And I think that the depth of talent that we have across the board, especially on the lines, and again, something I said a million times leading into the season, was that they lost their quarterback and they lost 5 starting offensive linemen. They have nobody that's played in this game coming. And we have Jack and JT, Tyreek. Those guys all played the whole game last year. Ty Hamilton, Mike Hall rotated in. Obviously, he's gone now, but um, I think that we have so much momentum. We're the number one team in the country, in my eyes. We're the number one team in Vegas's eyes, which is the most important set of eyes. Like, again, we're number one in, in the betting odds to win the championship. That's, to me, that's the most critical thing. It's not polls. It's not 10-0 Indiana versus a bunch of turds. Like, I mean, this is the deepest team we've ever had. And again, we said that all year, and we've lost, basically 2 All-Americans on the offensive line, and we still dominated Indiana. And I think Will Howard's an X factor. I think he's an absolute difference maker. I think he's the best. He might be the best player in the country, the most valuable player for sure. That's why I laughed that Travis Hunter is going to win the Heisman, and I'm like, well, if Colorado lost Travis Hunter, yeah, they'd still be what they are. They'd still be an average team that sneaks up on people and they do okay. But if we lost Will Howard, it'd be a bad day, really bad day. So yeah, that's why I judge the Heisman the most valuable player on the best team, and to me, Will Howard should be a lock Heisman. But instead, he's plus 40,000. So he's like the 10th favorite in the Heisman, which is preposterous. But I like the plan. I know kind of what we're gonna do because I've been watching Michigan, and I know kind of what Chip's thinking with they're going to run it on. We're going to get on that edge, and we're going to run Will, and we were running Will last week. So like when there's these big games, we're not scared to run Will hard. Like the first touchdown of the game versus Oregon was Will rushing. The last touchdown versus Indiana was Will rushing. Like I don't want to get into prop bet world, but like if there was a prop that I'd feel really good about, it's Will running a touchdown, because I feel like when we get in that red zone, you have to can the stupid moronic bunch cluster formation, spread the guys out, get JJ on the field, get a Mecca on the field, run read option. It's literally like stealing. I talked to David Patterson for an hour and a half today, and we were talking about the team and the games and what he used to hate as a defensive player. And he said the thing that he hated as a defensive player was a quarterback that could run, quarterback that could move, because it totally disrupts your pass rush. You can't rush the passer when you got a guy that can run, and Will could run. And that's the difference between him and Kyle McCord. Like again, Kyle McCord, I have no personal issues with him. I don't care about him at all, but he stunk, and he was slow, and he couldn't move. Again, it's not going to be a dead horse, but it's a total difference maker when you can run read option with Trey Henderson and Quinshawn with Will Howard. I mean, that's terrifying to defenses, and that was something that we lacked. And frankly, like that was something where, Will Howard, I think, is much better than CJ Stroud in college. Now, again, I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL, but college-wise, like, give me a guy that can run, who isn't scared to get hurt, because CJ was scared. He was out there, he was scared to get hurt, wanted to protect himself, which, again, that's fine. This is prerogative, whatever, but it hampered our running game, and it killed us in the red zone. Now, magically, when we run read option in the red zone, we're top 5 in the country, top 3 in the country in the red zone. I mean, Indiana stopped us last week, but it was almost shocking that, because nobody stopped us all year in the red zone. So I think that Will's legs are going to carry us, because Nevada, you better get that cocoa on order, because I don't know if you checked the weather, but it's supposed to be 18 degrees in a polar vortex on Saturday. So it's going to be windy and cold. And the one thing I know about wind and cold and weather and elements is that it makes the quarterback running game that much more important, because if it's windy and it affects throwing the ball, punting the ball, kicking field goals, whatever, like running the ball becomes paramount. And that's where a guy like Will Howard you can jump on his back, and he'll, gallop and run dudes over and get you 85 to 100 yards on the ground, along with Trey and Quinshawn. So, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you checked that, but it's supposed to be a chilly one on Saturday. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think in those games, you're really looking to go to I think those games, the defenses generally, control the games, and you look at who's got the dominant defense, who's got the dominant pass rush, who can rattle the quarterback. And you've got Will Howard, a quarterback with 40, 45 starts under his belt. And, statistically, I was looking at Will Howard's season, it's compared, I know this was 200 years ago when football was different, but I was comparing his stats to Troy Smith's Heisman stats his senior year. And Will's like 10 points higher in completion percentage, and yards per your attempt is like almost 2 yards per attempt higher. I mean, it's crazy how good his numbers are this year, and it just shows you what a lack of promotion will do for you. With Troy got the love, got the early buzz kind of going on, and kind of skated all the way to the Heisman, and I'm still hopeful that Will can get a Heisman invite, but I think it's very, very shaky that that's going to happen. But when that's your quarterback, as opposed to what Davis Warren, the walk-on from Loyola, I mean, I think Michigan's really going to struggle. The weather. I think they're going to tap. I think they're going to tap out. And for Nevadabuck, I'm just going to wear my pole. I'm going to look like Shackleton the Explorer, the guy that went to like the South Pole or the North Pole or whatever it was, and we're like the big furry boots and the hat, and carry like sucking on cocoa and trying to stay warm, stomping my feet or something like that. So I'm ready. It'll always be warm in the Nevadabuck Barton suite, and so hey, I bring on let it snow, bring on the cold weather.
Yeah, we usually just open our phones up but we put the game thread on our phones, and it just burns the hot takes just burn the whole suite apart, melts the paint. It's
whenever there's like an incomplete pass, or heaven forbid we give up a first down or something like that, and it's like, oh, we stink, we're terrible, you lied about it, you said
we need to fire everybody.
Fire Knowles. Everybody needs to be fired.
We should fire everybody like at halftime. Just get rid of everybody. Go out there, let the players coach themselves and see how it goes. God bless. All right. We get into some super chats. Actually, I'm going to break down one play because I really like this. So I noticed this. I was at the game and I was watching, and I always like to see how we match personnel. And we went 3 down here, 3 down linemen. So we've got our, we got our nose, we got our 2 ends. When you do this, this is a way to really scheme some blitz stuff up. So you got to account for this guy. He's breaking the heels. Count him as a down guy. Count him as an edge guy. And then you've got your corner. This is Los Al's Jr., who runs a 4.3. It might be the fastest guy on the team. And Jim Knowles is, again, this is tough. I mean, especially when you're opposite, when the back's over here, the back's thinking he has him, and then you should have the slide coming this way. But they just missed this. I mean, they have 6 guys, and we only bring 4, and we get home. So again, this is crowd noise. And again, these guys are smart. So they're triggering on this. So when they see this guy punch his arm out, that's when they know it's time to go. And these guys picked up on it. So they can time the splits almost perfectly. As soon as he punches, they're triggering. They're gone. So he punches, and then balls come in. And so, you do something where you basically take your end and you occupy this guard, and then you rush upfield to occupy the tackle. And Lorenzo, who can fly, you need a guy that runs a 4.3 to do this. He kind of picks the gap. And the back goes opposite, because he's up on the mug guy, the guy who's walked up here. Back thinks he has him. So again, this is great scheme. Again, we're bringing 4 guys, so we have 4, and they've got 6 blockers, and the quarterback gets massacred. Again, Cody, this is versus Carter Smith. Carter, he's indecisive. Carter doesn't know what to do here. Kid from Olentangy, nice kid. But I would guess he has to set for the widest. This is a slide. So he's got the A gap, he's got the B gap, he's got the C gap. The C gap is the widest gap. So doing this correctly, because again, this is easy to pick up. I mean, I'm sure they probably walked through this 8 million times, but Carter has a missed assignment here because he should stay on Cody Simon. The guard needs to push to Lorenzo, and the center needs to push to Kenyatta. But Kenyatta does a good job, because Kenyatta basically is setting a pick. You guys play basketball. You guys watch basketball. He's picking this guard so that they can't pass this off. He's basically blocking for Lorenzo. So Lorenzo's almost. I mean, if Cody doesn't get there, Lorenzo's going to get there. And Carter's kind of Carter has a missed assignment. He's in no man's land. So again, when we blitzes aren't designed for everybody to get to the quarterback. They're designed usually for one guy to get home. And the guy who's the jackpot guy is Lorenzo Styles Jr. And he's going to get home because of what Kenyatta does. And again, that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. That's not in the box score. It's nowhere to be found. And Cody, Cody, who's as good of a blitzer as we've ever had at linebacker, Again, Carter's in no man's land because Carter's supposed to just stay on Cody. I don't know what he's doing here, but again, when it's noisy and loud and you're flustered, you screw stuff up. So he gets his quarterback annihilated here because his quarterback, this is slide side, so he thinks he's fully protected because they can only possibly bring three, and you've got three blockers. So the quarterback's like, well, there's no way I'm going to get hit from the slide side because again, that's what the slide side's for. He's got to be worried about if they bring an extra guy over here, which they can't. So again, the only threats to blitz, there's three guys here and there's three guys here, and you've got 5+1, so it's 6-on-6. So the quarterback, he's got confidence that my guys are going to be good enough to pick this up. But with the crowd noise, thank you, Ohio Stadium, for being electric, because it was electric. They screw this up, And again, I talk about pressure sometimes. It's not. And again, this is a great effort by Cody and by Lorenzo, and especially Kenyatta is the guy that really teased this thing off for Lorenzo Salas Jr. But the quarterback gets massacred. And again, when a quarterback gets hit like this from the backside, they don't recover from this. They don't. They get hit, and then it's hard for them to trust. That's why they always talk about the blind side, because he has no idea. I mean, he thinks he's got three guys, and all of a sudden he's about to get mollywopped there, and he does, and he's just never the same after that. So I don't know. I love the scheme, but it doesn't happen without speed. And Lorenzo Salas Jr. has an incredible amount of speed to get stuff done, and it's just something that it's fun to watch, because I love watching these guys work, and they do such a great job of it. And again, it's Kenyatta. Like, Kenyatta is a guy who I've been hard on with his pass rush, but he's basically sacrificing himself there to be great, and it's fun to watch. Again, when these guys are doing this stuff, it's spectacular. Any thoughts on that, Nevada? And we will get into some. We'll get into some of our super chats.
Yeah, no, I love the pressure schemes. I love the way that Knowles is dialing up, because it's not just about overwhelming them with numbers. Like you said, it's about, creating, pressure from sides. The offense doesn't know what side it's coming from. They don't know where it's coming from. Sometimes it's over the left zone, it's over the right zone. It's a traditional pass rush, but they know it's coming. And as you said, we've got speed and abundance on the outside. When you've got guys like Sonny and Cody and CJ Hicks and Arvell, and our guys can really run, and they're starting to really tee off on the quarterback right now. And, that's problematic. And when you combine that with crowd noise, look, it's more than just inspiring the team. It messes with the get off from the offensive line. Indiana, all they could talk about in the postgame show was how the crowd completely affected, how they just were not prepared for that level of noise. They couldn't call the cadence. They couldn't even hear the cadence, and they were trying to go with the silent count. And as you said, they were getting a little predictable, getting beat on that, and that became a problem for them. So I'm expecting more of the same this week. And these are the types of games that are showcases. We've talked about recruiting, and we've talked about a couple of guys. There'll be a bunch of guys coming in this weekend, but two in particular, in Neem Alford and Tarvis Alford. And Tarvis is a linebacker type that wants to get after the quarterback. Well, last week nobody got after the quarterback better than Ohio State did. I remember when Georgia played, I think it was Texas, and all the fans were like, "Oh, I wish we could play like that," where they really got as well. That's how we play, and that's the attacking style that Jim Knowles is kind of, now that he's been unshackled by Ryan, understanding that they may give up some big plays. They're living with that. They're going with a more aggressive style, and I would think that would be really attractive to any linebacker that likes to rush the quarterback. This is a prime type of defensive setup for that, and I think we're going to see that in abundance, because you not that the Michigan quarterback's great, but when he struggles, when he's pressured, he really struggles, and he'll put the ball up for grabs, and he's going to get pressure unlike anything he's ever seen before coming on this Saturday, and that's going to be really fun to watch.
Excuse me. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic. All right, let's dig into some super chats. Appreciate you guys. Parker Mayo, thank you for the deuce. Going to the game and expect to see peace restored. Nevada OH. Nevada, in terms of games you've gone to in your life, and you've gone to the Texas game in 05 and the 06 Michigan game, I'm sure this doesn't top the '06 Michigan game. It's probably close, just because of the vengeance factor. But where does this one rank in terms of your excitement levels? Because Texas '05, I'm sure USC in '09. There's been some biggies. I mean, I don't think anything will ever top 1 versus 2 Ohio State, because that was literally like the winner goes to the national title. So nothing will ever top that, because that was, there was no Big Ten title and tournament game. Like, that's all kind of gone. That was literally the winner wins the Big Ten, gets the trophy in the locker room, and then also the winner goes to the national championship. So nothing will ever top that. And that's not for anything other than the circumstances have all changed now. But is there a game that you've been more excited for other than the 1 versus 2 game?
Oh no, and this is just got that extra layer about the cheating and the arrogance of Michigan, because I grew up I disliked Michigan, but this is different level. I mean, they've taken it to a completely different level with the fact that they tapped out in 2020, which I completely believe was a lie. I completely believe that the COVID thing was a complete and total utter lie by Michigan to avoid the game, to avoid the spanking, and then the cheating, the shameless cheating by Michigan and their fans. Just I've never wanted to beat a team as badly, and I really I sincerely say this. I think for Michigan fans, um, I mean, I wouldn't want to come to this game. I would not want to come to the game, because I know emotions are running high. I know passions are inflamed right now, and as a Michigan fan, man, I would not become this game. I would stay home and watch the game on television, because it's going to be spirited. I mean, it's going to be a spirited affair, and I know I'm fired up to see it. Just because, again, just the classless way in which Michigan's kind of conducted themselves, just the taunting of Ohio State, and the planting the flag and the stamping on the logo and the waving, and just all the chatter from their fan base over these last 3 years. Well, the rent's due. The rent, Daddy's home now, kids, and he's mad, and you're going to get a spanking, and that spanking's coming on Saturday. So get ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, they're such pompous morons, and they're cancer. And I'm gonna be so happy when they get smashed again, because I'm sick of seeing people wear Michigan stuff in the state of Ohio, and it's just okay. Because again, when they got scoreboard on us, they're allowed to wear it. But like for 20 years, basically, it was eradicated because we smashed them so many times that they were scared to. They had to go take their stuff to Goodwill and donate it because they were so far behind the times. But we're going to get back to that. I'm happy about that. That's been honestly the thing that's been the most disappointing to me um, over the last few years, is that those people have been able to, kind of, Michigan has become like cool again. Like it was like that in the '90s when all these douchebags would wear Michigan stuff, in like Ohio, because Michigan was cool. They were good. They beat us every year. They had the Fab Five. They had Charles Woodson, so they were hip and whatever. But like that was, it's all based off, I mean, the Fab Five. Like their banners don't even exist. It's all based off cheating at this point. So again, um there's a pattern here where they think they're above repute, and they're going to get smashed by the NCAA. But first, like Ryan Day's going to get to take them to the woodshed. And again, there's nobody in this world I'm happier for than Ryan Day. Ryan Day has gotten smashed for the last 3 years, and and Jim Harbaugh ran for the hills because he knew that he didn't have much coming back this year, and he knew that he could take the golden parachute out to LA, and he took as many people as he could, and now you have poor Sharon Moore, who's he's Fat Albert reincarnated, and he's going to be coaching, and again, like he's a guy that he's an empty suit. We knew he was in over his head. He's not a tactician. And they'll fire him within 3 years, and they'll move on to a real coach, because again, he's a guy that didn't do anything to deserve that job, except he was a guy that would sit there and sign the long-term contract, know that they're about to get smashed by the NCAA, and try to hang on and keep the thing going. But year one at Michigan, you go 6-6, man. The clock is ticking in a major way, especially when they start off as a top 15 team or 10 team or whatever they were. And um, schematically terrible. Recruiting's been terrible. Despite getting the #1 player in the country. Look, let's see how long he sticks. If these sanctions come, bowl bans, we'll see how much he bleeds blue, because he didn't bleed blue until this week. So it's not like he's some diehard Michigan Wolverine. Like those guys, it's always nice fodder when you make a little Kanye West music video to "You're Coming Home Again" to Michigan, but he wasn't coming home again until he got a lot of money. He was going to LSU, and again, I think that if LSU was like a good LSU, like Nick Saban LSU, or like a monster, he's probably still going to LSU. But LSU's fallen off the earth too, and Brian Kelly's a total douchebag. So I think he's going to end up being gone too pretty quick because he runs his way out of town quick because he grates on those kids and he's hard on those kids. And there's nobody. The one thing about Kirk Yeti and Brian Kelly that they have in common, people think they're great coaches and they love to blame their players when things go wrong. That was one thing about Kirk Yeti that it told me a lot was when he says press conferences, he's like, well, we didn't handle the noise and the players didn't really respond to the crowd being loud and stuff. And I'm like, well, what did you guys do all week? Did you guys have music at practice? Did you guys get them ready for it? He's like, oh, when we had to switch to the silent count, it was really hard and our guys weren't ready for it. I'm like, well, that's why they call you coach, you moron. Would you think that an arena with 107,000 people who you basically incited by talking trash all week, did you think that they weren't going to be angry and loud and responsive? And you talk all that trash and then you come up here and you get smashed by a team that's a million times better than you. Like, we knew what happened. Again, like, listen to our shows last week. I'm like, you can't be Ryan Day holding a royal flush in a poker game and lose. When you have JJ, JT2, Maloau, Will Howard, Quinshawn, Trey. They might have one guy on their entire team that was the Kamara guy would probably play for us. The rest of their team, there's not a single guy that would start for us. Not one guy on the offensive line, not one guy on the D line other than Kamara. So, I mean, again, fool's gold is about the only term that I could ever give for those guys. And again, if you're stupid and you see a team that's got 108th strength of schedule and they're undefeated, 10-0, whatever, and you're like, oh my God, they're amazing. I'm like, well, we'll see. They scored early, whatever, it's great. But I mean, we've had MAC teams score in the first quarter against us too, take the lead on us. Like, stupid stuff happens sometimes. But when it all shook out, it was ugly. But God, I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be amazing. And I can't wait for these Jack Sawyer and some of these guys. I just can't wait. I mean, they're going to just to senior day and go out and get that dub and smash someone who's been terrible and right so many wrongs. It's going to be glorious. John A. Thank you for the 5. Kurt, can you please ease my concerns with Tegra? Just need him really to want it over the next couple weeks. So, I mean, I don't know if I would ever let Tegra leave the Woody Hayes at this point because I watch him and he makes mental errors a lot. And he plays hard sometimes. I don't know how Austin Sauerveld was behind him on the bench, but again, I also don't know how Carson Hinsman was behind him on the bench, but he is the sacred cow of the Woody Hayes, and he is a guy that they can't get him to want to do it all the time. And he's gotten better. Like, he had some nice plays on Saturday, but like, the kid has potential. He's got a lot of upside. His issues, the thing that drives me crazy with him is it's not a talent thing. Sometimes it's not even a technique thing. It's just a 1-2 thing. And it's a focus thing. And those are things that you can iron out quick if you're a coach, because again, when guys just don't know who they're going to blocking and they don't know the plays, that's on the coaching staff. That's not on Tegra, because again, if Tegra doesn't feel like learning the plays, then you have to put somebody else in the game. And that's why it drove me crazy that Carson wasn't in and we were playing Tegra and I was watching him go the wrong way, go to the wrong linebacker on zone, like stuff that's like the day one install stuff. So again, not trying to be hard on the kid. I know that he has upside. I have no idea on this earth how he started over Austin Sauerveld or Carson Hinsman, because both those guys are severely better. And I thought, Austin Sauerveld played great on Saturday, and he's physical and he knows what he's doing. Like, he's sharp. And like I said, when Tegra tapped out of the Oregon game on the last drive of the game because his back was a little tight, Austin went out there and he blocked their best guy on defense, 55, their D tackle from Michigan State, and he locked him down. I mean, perfection. And that's why I was like, yeah, he's not going to be scared of Indiana. If he can go to Altson Stadium, 2-minute drive to win the game, and go against their best player one-on-one and lock him up, he'll be okay. Because he's a horse. He's a big, strong kid. Tall, lanky, really intelligent. He's like, again, I know that there's somebody on this show every night with me that always talks about taking Ohio linemen. Austin Sauerveld is like the poster boy for it. Honestly, he reminds me of Norwell. Not as physical as Norwell, because nobody on earth is as physical as Norwell, but he's like that kind of bigger, tackle-ish type body, but he can play guard really well, really physical, really smart. And Norwell was the greatest. He was the best of all time because he acted like a barbarian, like a caveman, like he was big and acted like he was dumb and he'd grunt and all that. But he was one of the smartest players ever coached. He just didn't want you to think that. He didn't act like he was some Copernicus. He acted like he was, cave nug. But he'd get out there and he knew every assignment. Very, very, very limited MAs, missed assignments. I mean, he was a dream. So Nevada, your thoughts on Tegra? And again, Tegra's got a lot of potential, but again, like at some point you have to want to do it, because again, like Justin Fry can't go out there and block guys and whisper into his ear before every play, hey, make sure you go to this linebacker. But but he's got potential, and that's why he's in there. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I'm just kind of looking at the silver lining of, when we were looking at the line at the beginning of the year where you've got Simmons and Jackson and Seth and then, Tegra and then Josh Fryer, for next year, you were going, wow, man, we're only returning one guy on the line that's starting now. Now we're going to return our entire interior for next year. So I'm just looking at the bright side. I think Tegra's gotten better. I think he is a player that he's got a massive amount of potential. If they can ever untap it, if they can ever get him to to be a little bit more responsible, to know the playbook, know what he's supposed to be doing, on a consistent basis, he's got that kind of upside. I mean, frankly, he's a little bit, different players, but a little bit like DeWand in terms of lots of physical ability, not always mentally locked in, but if you can lock him in, you got to keep trying to do it. And at this point, we've got the three guys that we wanted out there, Austin and Carson. Tegra's out there. Let's. I just think they just got to keep coaching him up. And I'm confident because he's getting better and he's surrounded by guys that are playing together. And I think every week this line's going to get better and better because look, they've only been together, 7 days now, and I think they're going to get exponentially better if we can keep this line healthy. And practicing over the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think that's they'll be formidable by the college football playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's got potential. Like I can see, like when I watch him, I can see, okay, I see what Justin Fry sees. I can see what Justin's watching, why they're trying to get it out of him. He's big, but he's a big guy that doesn't play as powerful as he should. Like, I mean, because again, if he really was all switches on, all systems go, I mean, he could be a monster. But again, you have to figure out if you want to do that or not. Like DeWan's a million times more talented than Tegra. DeWan's bigger, physical, fast. Obviously, DeWan's biggest issue is can he keep his weight down and can he stay healthy? Because he's finished the last 2 seasons in the NFL on IR, but you can see the talent. You can put him out there versus Nick Bosa and TJ Watt, and DeWan is not fun to go against. When you're that big and your arms are that long, it's hard to pass rush a guy like that. So you can see why the Browns put him at left tackle because DeWan's got more talent in his big toe than Jedrick Wills has in his entire body. And that's why they put him out there. Hey, let's put him at left tackle, bench our first rounder, and see what Juan can do. And again, I love DeWan. It's just like there's certain guys that need the drill sergeant. They need Bill Callahan. And again, when Bill Callahan had DeWan last year, he was much better. The whole line was because you've got guys like Jed Wills and these underachiever guys, and they don't respond to soft, huggy poo coaching. You have to stay on, like you have to keep your foot up their hind end. They're basically their entire lives, or else they're gonna become blobs and they're gonna eat their way out of the NFL and they're gonna be poor performers and low motor guys. So, but DeWan's tools are immense. Like he could be the best tackle in the National Football League. He's that good. Yeah, but it's up to him if he wants to. And again, I worry about him because and again he had a terrible injury that fractured his ankle, and he's the nicest kid in the world. I just worry when you get an injury like that, he's got to stay on his conditioning, man, because it's the off season now, and you got to put the fork down and stay on your conditioning the best you can because it's hard. I mean, you break your ankle, man, you can't get on the treadmill and run. Church of the Torah, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. What's good, Kirk? My dude, long time at FC Hope, all as well. Just checking in. I'm on the highway. It looks like it's over for Michigan. Go Buckeyes. We better stay strapped, Torah. I hope you're good, brother. I hope your studies are going great. Every time I talk to Torah, I learn something about ancient religious scripts. So Torah is always deep in the knowledge base, but that's why we love him. I appreciate you, my dude. Yeah, we're on the grind, my man. So I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for moderating as well and being great. Nevada, our boy Tora is checking in from the highway. He says it looks like it's over for Michigan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, good to hear from you, Tora. Hopefully, we'll see you soon. Maybe surprise us, come to the Michigan game this weekend. That would be quite a treat. But yeah, no, I think the everything's coming due for Michigan. The NCAA thing, they're running out of time on that. The mouthing off and cheating stuff, they're dealing with that on Thursday, on Saturday. So yeah, in life, you can only get away with stuff so long, and then there's a price to pay. And Michigan's getting ready to pay it, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. They're going to pay a heavy price on Saturday, which I cannot wait for. Ranjit, sorry. I love the Pink Floyd piano cover artist. That is fantastic. I love your album cover as well. My biggest unit versus unit concern versus Michigan is their defensive line versus our offensive line. What do you think OSU needs to do to win that battle? Well, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. We have to double team 55 on every pass protection. You have to make his life a living hell, which we can do. It's not hard to game plan versus 1D tackle. 98 is a good player. He's not great. 55 is a great player. And again, I'm not whatever, but like, it's kind of like when we used to play against like Lamar Woodley, like he was a million times better than the other end. So whoever had Woodley should get chip help and a tight end, like whatever. When a team has one good D lineman, it's really easy to scheme against that guy to make sure he doesn't beat you. And if he still beats you, then your guys just aren't very good. But our guys are really good. So I would just double team 55 on every pass protection. I would take the slide to him every time. And I would try to put four hands on him, and I'd try to, again, four hands, that means the center and the guard to him every time. Don't let him beat you. And again, we do a lot of stuff where we move the pocket. We run little nakeds, which, real easy little plays to kind of move it and don't stay, think about Will Howard. He's not a statue. He doesn't just stay in one place in the pocket. Chip Kelly is excellent at moving guys around, moving him around to make it more difficult to pass rush. So again, that's the biggest thing. Again, like I said, Chip Kelly dominated college football at UCLA and at Oregon running the ball. Like, a couple years ago at UCLA, he was number 2 in the nation rushing when he had Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet. They were number 2 in the nation. And they didn't, they had a couple guys that were like kind of mid to late round draft picks, but they didn't have like 4 first round picks on the O-line that was just bulldozing people. He does a lot of it deception, a lot of it's scheme, a lot of it's just getting in the way. I mean, you don't have to, people think that, when you're run blocking, it has to be like 5 pancakes across the board for us to get in yards. It's like, no, you just, if you have Trey and Quinch on, like, you just got to stay in the way, get a stalemate. I mean, if you get a stalemate, like there's the old saying in football, the offensive line wins all stalemates with the D line. Don't get pushed in the backfield, but stalemate them and let the running backs cut off of it and go get yardage. And we have Quinch on and Trey, like that's like, it's as luxurious as it gets. It's like having like a self-driving car. Like they're gonna get you home and get you to where you need to go if you just let them do their thing. So I would handle 55. Their ends they aren't threatening. And neither is the other tackle. He's big, strong kid, not a pass rusher. 55 is a pass rusher, so you got to get after him a little bit. Nevada, your thoughts? Ranjit, sorry, said my biggest unit versus unit concern versus Michigan is D line versus O line. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, it's going to be a good matchup, but I mean, just scheme them up. I like the outside run stuff. Make those guys move laterally, and I mean, Chip knows what he's got to do, and Michigan's really limited. Their defense is not good. I mean, their defense has been run through by most everybody. I don't know what the ranking is. I think 58, 70, it's something like that. So this is not one of the legendary great defense. They've got one really good player. They had 3 really good players to start the season. Will Johnson tapped out. 98's just big fat guy, but and like you said, 55 is really really good. But we can handle that, and we've played better defenses than Michigan's, and yeah, the offensive line will be ready for it. I mean, Carson went man up on the. I mean, he played center last year up in the big house, so he knows what to expect. He's ready to go, and I'm sure Chip's got something in his bag for these guys.
And Carson's a million times better than he was last year. Like I actually went back and watched the Michigan game from last year, and he's much heavier this year in a good way, much more stout, much stronger. Because again, you naturally mature from year one to year two. When you go from redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore, like he's more confident. Um, he doesn't get pushed. I'm not saying he got pushed around last year, but he was young. I mean, when you're a young player, man, and you're light, it's tough. But I mean, he spent a lot of time in that gym. Like he made Iron Buckeye, so you don't get that without crushing your personal records or PRs in the gym and putting in work. And he knew he had to get bigger. And Carson is enormous now. I mean, he's not a little kid anymore, and he plays like a big, strong dude. He's not some guy that's big and gets pushed around. He pushes guys around. So I think, and again for Carson, you got to remember, like I mean, him and Donnie, they messed up the last play of the game last year and got Kyle McCord hit and whatever interception. So that's going to be burning inside of him to go and right that wrong, so to speak. Because I mean, I'm sure Donnie's the same way. I'm sure those guys can't wait to get back out there and smash these guys and flush last year completely down the toilet. Buckeye one, thank you for the 5. Why would NCAA grant an extension? 3 months was enough. Which team will run the ball better on Saturday? If it is OSU, game over. I think it's just a procedural thing. It's no different than kind of like in court. If you're in court and your attorney requests an extension from the judge, in general, that's granted if there's good reasoning. And I'm sure they're trying to come to terms or come to grips or whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But again, there's also that penance that they have to pay where if you extend it, then they can add stuff to the dossier, which I'm sure they're doing. So that's not good for Michigan. Who will run the ball better? OSU is going to run all over these guys, especially with the way we're going to run Will Howard. Because Will Howard, like if you guys have paid attention, like we only really run him in big games like Oregon, Indiana. We're going to run him a lot on Saturday. Penn State, to ice the game against Penn State, we call number 18's number, and he goes and gets us a first down and does the Drew Aller celebration, which is awesome. So this is going to be the Will Howard show, and this game, the next 2 weeks should be the capstone on him winning the Heisman if we had an SID that wasn't just impossibly bad. But that's where we're at right now. I mean, if a guy beats Michigan, he beats Indiana, Michigan, and then beats Oregon in the Big Ten title, in any other universe, that clinches the Heisman. But in this universe where nobody even knows that Will Howard exists outside of us, he keeps him at plus 10,000 to win it. So, Nevada, your thoughts. Why would the NCAA grant an extension? And again, thanks, Buckeye one for the 5. 3 months was enough. Which team will run the ball better on Saturday? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, you're exactly right on the extension. I mean, look, the only way the NCAA can blow this case with Michigan is to be seen as doing something that's unreasonable. Granting an extension is one of those things that when people ask for an extension, in general, they're almost universally granted. So I think the NCAA's perspective, they're just following procedure and just trying to stay above board so that there can be no question that they've dealt with Michigan fairly and honorably. As for rushing, look, I mean, history would indicate the team that rushes the ball better is going to win the game. And I think look, Michigan's going to try to run the ball against Ohio State, but you're going to see a modified bare front when they try to do that, and that's really hard to run against. And Jack and JT have been really, really stout against the run. So I think that's going to be challenging for Michigan. And Ohio State, look, when you can run and you can pass and you have a quarterback that can run, you are very difficult to defend. And we've got 2 great running backs. So yeah, I think we're going to win the game in every possible way. We're going to win the offensive battle. We're going to win the rushing battle. We're going to win the defensive battle. We're going to win the special teams battle, and we're going to have a big win on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be glorious. Close to it. Studley Budley, thanks for the deuce prediction. Clubber Lang voice. Payne, Nevada OH. You're right. I think that these guys, like I said, these guys have had a long, painful offseason since losing to Michigan and dealing with the trash that comes with losing to Michigan. Because again, there's nothing that sucks worse than losing to Michigan. I never lost him as a player, but in 03 when I redshirted and I did not travel to the game, the team went up there and got smashed by Michigan, and that's when they had Chris Perry and John Navarre, and it just was. Yeah, and we were like, I think number 2 in the country. Like we were literally playing to win the national championship, and we went up there, and that was Craig Krenzel and all those guys, and we got smashed. We got physically violated by Michigan that day, and I was like, yeah, I don't want this to ever be us. Because I remember I was watching with like Marcel Frost and a bunch of us that were scrubs that were redshirting, and Gonzo was redshirted. So like none of us went to the game. We were all literally in the dorms, and there's nothing that's more fun than when you're redshirted and people ask you if you're really on the team or not because you're watching the team play in the game. You're sitting in the dorms, so it's like it's a miserable experience. And then we got up there and we just got bullied by Michigan that day, and I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. So, um, we were we didn't want to go out like that, and thank God for Troy Smith because we didn't, because Troy was the X factor when we played, and he obviously carried us in the games he started and played in. But yeah, it's there's a different level of anger after you lose to Michigan, and I just thank God I never lost him as a player that actually played in the game. Or like when you're on the team and you don't travel, it's kind of like being on if you're a high school football team and there's a freshman team and you're on the freshman team, like when the varsity loses, you don't really feel like that's you because you're not even good enough to go to the game. So, my opinion. Jim Jackson, thanks for the 5. Uh, Burke, 97 QB recruit Brady Edmonds is supposed to be in the shoe Saturday. We're cooking with grease, baby. I think you mean 17, maybe? Unless his was he born in 97? Maybe? No.
No,
That'd be 27. So that is that
I,
17?
I, I think it's a 27.
27. Okay, 27. Okay. I'm just looking at the keyboard and I'm like, the two's not by the 9, but I appreciate you, my dude. Yeah, I mean, we are the in vogue team. Like we are the safest bet in the country right now. If you're a great player and you want to get developed and you want to have the same coach for most of your career, this is the place to be. So again, some kids don't get that and they'll try to get cute. And it's like I looked at JoJo Trader, who was JJ's boy, went to Miami. He's got like 3 catches for 10 yards on the season. And we would have taken him. Like JoJo could have been here. Now I don't know if JoJo would have played. I mean, Mylan Graham hasn't played at all, but I want to send my kid to Miami? No, not a chance in the universe. Or Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Bama. There's no way. Tennessee, no way. So these kids are starting to figure this out, and Ohio State is on fire right now on the recruiting trail. Nevada, your thoughts? Brady Edmonds is going to be in the shoe on Saturday. Big recruiting weekend's coming. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, big recruiting weekend. Obviously, we talked about a little bit about Tarvis Alford, and he offered 2 guys that have been crystal balled to other places. If they are in the shoe on Saturday, then I would be shocked if they're not part of the Ohio State class. If they do not show up on Saturday, then I think that's officially time when you can be concerned about it. But in the meantime, I'm telling you, don't get concerned because Fong puts out something or Tom Loy or any of these jokers put stuff out there because they're just taking swings right now. I'm telling you, he's putting these Fong bombs out every single day, looking stuff out there, putting it out there. He'll hit some, he's going to miss a bunch. Ask him if Edric Houston is still at Alabama, like he dropped the Fong bomb last signing day. He doesn't know. He's just taking swings on this stuff, and so just watch what they do, not what they say. Look for Alford and Offered. If they come to the game on Saturday, that is an extremely good sign. Obviously, you've got Chris Henry Jr. there. Remember, we have a head coach who's 45 years old. 45. And I'll compare that to the hot young Signetti coach at Indiana. He's 62, or 63. Jim McElwain, who just retired, he's 62. Ryan Day is 45 years old. We have a 45-year-old head coach who might be the best coach in all of college. He's definitely in the top 5. Might be in the top 2. Might be right behind Kirby Smart, and he's 45 years old. So, like, as an Ohio State fan, we've got a sexy program, an attractive program to these incoming players, and a program that just exudes stability because our coach is so young. He's not going anywhere, and yeah, so I would expect there to be a lot of big names there, but the biggest names are Tarvis Alford, Neem Alford, 2 guys that are committed to Ohio State. Want to see him in the shoe on Saturday. That would be a very good sign that we're going to keep him.
Yeah. I think that's it's going to be really excited to see. Jimmy Craig, thanks for the 5. If you're to put money on it, does Michigan keep or lose the Natty? I don't understand how they can keep the Natty if they get games vacated. Like you vacate a season, but you get to keep the national. That makes no sense to me. So I don't know how I don't know how you keep it if they're going to vacate all these wins from all these games where they're cheating. How do they say? But you get to keep the national title game, but all of your other games are null and void. That makes no sense to me. So in my opinion, I think that they've got to take it away. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I think they lose it. I mean, because you talk about 21 and 22, and you talk about 23. I mean, well, 23 was the year that Connor Stallions was on the sideline at the Central Michigan game, the game that Jim McElwain just got fired over him
Exactly.
being on the sideline, a full-time staffer. And keep in mind, Michigan got served in January of 23 with the Cheeseburger Gate and notice of allegations by the NCAA. So they are officially under NCAA investigation. They're served. They're under that. And what do they do 9 months later? They roll Connor Stallions out there against Central Michigan. So they're a repeat offender, man. And so they've got to lose games in 23. When you lose games in 23, I don't know how you're eligible to even be in the college football playoff. I believe that'll be vacated. It's gun to my head. Final answer. I think they lose the Natty.
Yeah, and also, when you're like I said a million times, if you're a staffer making 50 grand in the football program, you have to ask permission, and there has to be some sort of extenuating circumstance to skip out on all the Friday night stuff. Because again, Friday night isn't just go to dinner and go to sleep. It's like there's game plan stuff, there's tests that you have to grade, there's night meetings, there's stuff at the hotels, walkthroughs, there's all kinds of stuff. So you don't just get to like leave at 3 o'clock and go out and have beers. Like you have to go actually work. So he had to tell people, namely like his supervisor, which is likely either the director of operations or he probably not go straight to Jim Harbaugh, but somebody up the food chain. He's hey, I can go to the Central Michigan State game and I can get a look at their signals and see if they changed them, and I can also help out Jim McElwain, blah blah blah, and someone had to approve that. So again, we'll never get the answer out of Connor because he's too stupid to ever be honest. But you don't just get to leave. Like I said, I was a GA, and it's like I didn't get to leave till like 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, go home, sleep for a couple hours, and then go right back to the building to get ready for the game. Jimmy Craig, excuse me, apologize. Stupid, I like it. Thanks for the deuce. Do y'all think we run it up just because? Yes, that is the easiest super chat answer that I've ever given. If Ryan Day can run it up to 150 points, he'll do it because he doesn't care and he hates those guys. And again, there's something to be said about Ryan because there's always this lens of stuff that is probably like a compounding interest type of effect. Where I've talked to a lot of people that are very important, very influential around Ohio State this week. Then they've universally said my favorite part of the game was when Ryan ran for that last touchdown. And again, these are people that donate a lot of money. And Ryan, if Ryan does that against Michigan, there are major donors at this university that'll hand him a blank check and say, do that every year, and here's your blank check. You want NIL money, you want new football facility, you want all this new stuff, like run it up on Michigan. That makes me very happy. Nothing in the world makes me happier. So again, Ryan has a lot of incentive to name the score against Michigan, and I think you will, because again, like you've got recruits to impress. You've got donors that are hungry to give you money, and the quickest way to get all that stuff dialed up and excited is run it up on Michigan. Nevada, your thoughts?
Look, I mean, if he'll go for a touchdown with 20 seconds to go against Indiana, what do you think he'll do against Michigan? Like I said, he'd score the touchdown and then he'd onside kick. So yeah. If he has the chance, he will lay it on Michigan, and he will not take his foot off the gas. No chance, no way, no how.
Yeah, I mean, if he could signal a drone strike to their sideline, he'd do that. I think at this point, because he just, again, he's been beaten to death, and again, I don't blame him because when a team cheats and steals something that's yours, then I mean, and again, Ryan, still gets beat down even though they were cheating. He still gets beaten down as if they weren't. So I mean, he's gonna have something for him. Tom Gombar, thank you for the 5. All this talk about Heisman candidates, I'm not so sure Caleb Downs isn't the best player in the nation. Screw the blue, Nevada OH.
I owe.
Well, it's funny because last week I said that I thought Caleb Downs is going to end up being the best safety to ever play here, and I think he might end up being the best. He might be the best defensive player to ever play here by the time he's done. But he's pretty good. I got laughed out of the ballpark because Jack Tatum was seventh in the Heisman and was a fantastic player, but I just don't think he's as good as Caleb Downs is going to end up being after his next year. Now, again, I don't know if we're not going to see his senior year, obviously. So he'll be in the NFL. He'll be a top 5 pick probably by the time he leaves here, but he is spectacular. And against Indiana, the thing about Caleb, man, is he's never out of position. He can tackle. He reads quarterbacks and offenses better than any player I've ever studied on film. And again, then he had the dynamic punt return that really broke the game open. And so I don't know, pretty good Nevada. Again, people that don't like NIL, it's like, well, I love NIL, and I'm the champion of NIL. It's the greatest thing of all time because we got Caleb Downs because of it, and Quinshawn and Will Howard and whoever else, like our best players. Again, a lot of them came back, roster management, NIL, and then we went to the portal and we hit grand slam after grand slam, bringing in Seth McLaughlin, Quinshawn Judkins, obviously Caleb Downs, I mean, Davison last year, Josh Simmons last year. I mean, good God, did we fortify our roster in a major way. What are your thoughts, Nevada? All this talk about Heisman candidates, I'm not so sure. Caleb Downs isn't the best player in this. And again, Caleb Downs should win the Thorpe. Cody Simon is the best linebacker in the country. Again, I watched him 2.5 sacks this past week, and he's been absolutely on fire. And Jim Knowles is featuring him as a blitzer, and it's terrifying. And again, that was something that really played well with Tyler Atkinson. Tyler Atkinson is the best player in the 2026 class, linebacker from Georgia. He's a monster, and he loved Ohio State. Him and his dad Victor really had a great time, and they love how we blitz our linebackers because that's what he is. He is an attacking linebacker. Some say like an outside rush guy, 3-4 guy, but I mean, I'd put him at D end on third down, and I'd have him rush. I mean, I'd have him just do what you do with Cody Simon. Say you're going to be our blitzing linebacker. You're going to be that guy. You're going to be our focus guy, and let him tear it up. Nevada, your thoughts? I know that you're way down on Caleb Downs, just like you're way down on Trey Henderson and Will Howard, and I had to lift you up like the rising tide that lifts all boats. But your thoughts on Caleb Downs, and should he win the Thorpe, and should he potentially be invited to the Heisman ceremony?
Well, I think, look, Ohio State's the best defense in the country, and it's not close. So you would think that we'd get some recognition. So we'll see. I mean, he should win the Thorpe. Cody Simon should win the Butkus, but Cody Simon isn't even a finalist for the Butkus. They weren't even semifinalists. So our SID strikes again. Caleb Downs should win the Thorpe Award. I mean, I totally agree. It's hard for a defensive player to get that kind of love. That's why Caleb was asking for. And earlier in the year, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Caleb Downs was lobbying Ryan Day to put him in at running back at the end of the game. He was sitting there right on his shoulder, and it was kind of a joking thing, but he wants to touch the ball. I mean, he was a great high school running back, and so when they put him back at to field punts, man, I'm like, hey, I'm all about that. If he drops one or whatever, I can live with that. He's dynamic, the ball. I want, it's the same reason why in high school your best athletes generally play quarterback because you want them touching the ball every play. I want Caleb to touch the ball as much as possible. And he certainly, if he's not the best player in America, he certainly should be in the conversation. And he's going to be well compensated in the NFL as a result.
Yeah, I mean, he's special. And people that worry about injury, again, I'm not going to get philosophical, but to me, it's like it's God's will if you're meant to get hurt. I mean, Travis Hunter plays 160 plays a game right now, so it's like, or 140, whatever he's playing. Like if there's 65 or 70, if there's 70 on each side of the ball and he's playing all of them, that's 140 plays a game. So if Caleb plays 5 plays on offense, he's not made of porcelain. He's a tough kid, but again, it's all predetermined. I think that he's a tough cookie, and I do whatever he wants to do, I'm good with, because he's a dynamic dude. Especially next year, because I don't know what we're going to look like at running back. We're not going to be as good as we are this year. There's no way. I mean, we'd have to get some monsters in the portal to get anywhere near Trey and Quinshawn, because I just think that those guys are elite level players. And I think James Peoples is going to be very good, but Quinshawn and Trey are first rounders. And James Peoples has got to carry the mail a little bit before I can determine that with him. I talk too loud. Thanks for the 5. Any chance we get back to that linebacker from Ohio committed to Alabama, Justin Hill? Why would he want to play for them this year? I think everything's on the table with these kids. Some of these kids commit to programs, and then you kind of see the results and the direction of the program, and you're like, God, I don't know if I made the right decision. So, again, I think that as we ascend and we beat Michigan and then we beat Oregon and we're the number one seed in the playoffs, like I think teams will be like, man, I want to be a part of that. Like I don't want to be a part of losing to Vanderbilt and getting smashed by Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma was a cadaver, and they smashed Alabama on Saturday, and I'm just like, I don't know. And I mean, Alabama's going to take a step back next year without Jalen Milroe. He's going to go to the league. So I mean, Bama is partying like it's 2006 right now, baby. They're back to the good old days of when I mean, we didn't even know Alabama existed when I was in college. They weren't even on the map. They weren't even on the radar. They're like Clemson. Alabama and Clemson, they were never even a thought when I was a player. And it was like USC and Oklahoma and like teams like that. It was never Bama, but I don't know. Nevada, what do you think? Do you think we get back to the kid that's committed to Alabama, Justin Hill?
Yeah, I mean, that was a scheme thing. That was about the type of scheme we're playing. And look, I mean, as you said, I think that there's a lot of conversations going on with a lot of kids, and you know, I think Ohio State's going to, the David Sanders thing kind of came out of nowhere to a lot of people. That wasn't as surprising to us, just because we've seen this movie before. We've seen kids make a commitment, and then as the season plays out, maybe they swing back around. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him, but that will not be the last name that you'll hear from an oldie but goodie, because I know that there's ongoing conversations with a number of kids that have committed elsewhere that could be circling back and reconsidering the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and if we don't get him, then I mean, ask Keon Keeley how Alabama's turned out for him. Disaster. I mean, some of these kids, they just don't know what they're missing when they don't come here. Sean Schrock, thank you for the 5. Thanks for being on as well. In the 2005 Scum game, what was the huddle like on the last drive? Troy Smith and your team was amazing. Nevada, what do you remember about that game? I'm just curious, because I mean, I'm sure you're probably watching that at home. You didn't go. Have you ever gone to the big house?
I've been to the big house one time, never would go again. Was not
Never
at that
again.
game. No, I just remember. Well, this is what I remember, and I don't know if this is a fault. This could be like one of those false memories or something like that. But didn't Teddy have a trouble fielding some punts or something like that
Oh
game?
God.
And
Dante
and it
Whitner's
kind
ready
of
to kill him. Oh my God, he's ready to kill
yeah,
him. Yeah.
and it put us in a bad spot. And then I remember being down 9 or whatever it was late and thinking, we're just out of time. We just do not have enough time to come back. And then, you know, Troy made so many great plays, but the play where he was running for the sticks on the running quarterback thing, and then he stopped to let the guy fly right past him, and then ran out there and got the first down. And then obviously the great pass to Gonzo. Um, I, I that was about as excited as I've ever been, for a win there, because it was just so unlikely. Because really, when you guys were down 9, Kirk, I mean, there was your odds of winning in that game were pretty low at that point. I mean, you're probably like a 3% implied odds at that point. You're not coming back down 2 scores with 7 minutes to go or 9 minutes to go, or whatever the heck it was. But you guys did it. So hats off to you guys, and that's what I remember.
I mean, it was I don't know. I mean, I talk a lot about what Troy Smith means to me and the program, and you see a lot of these quarterbacks that came here after Troy, guys like Braxton and Terrell, and a lot of these guys are right on the heels of Troy. But I mean, there have been guys that have been great in that rivalry. There's no greater Wolverine killer than Troy Smith. It's not even close. Because again, when we played Michigan, like they were real teams, and this Michigan team was a weird team because they'd lost some games that they probably shouldn't have lost. But they beat Penn State. They beat this is '05. This is the Penn State team that beat us. And it was the whiteout game. Like they that Penn State team, that '05 team that was probably in the top 3 in the country, they went to the big house and played a night game, and Michigan beat them. And so they still had Manningham, and they still had Mike Hart, and they still had Chad Henne, and I mean they were killers. I mean again, they had Woodley, and I mean they had name brand dudes, David Harris, um they had guys that were first rounders, and this was the genesis of the '06 team. Jake Long was the first overall pick in the draft. So, they were a talented team that really didn't play great. But they ended up, you know, doing some pretty incredible things. And then we're playing them. And I remember I'm sitting on that bench and we're down like 9 points with 7 minutes to go. And I'm like, we're really going to lose to these guys. Like, we were like record wise, like this is kind of, it wasn't as dramatic as this week, but it was kind of close where it's like we were clearly on paper the better team. We'd had the better season. We felt like this was going to be whatever, but losing, playing in Ann Arbor is hard. And we were very fortunate that we had Troy, because without Troy, we don't win that game. There's no chance. And again, the running quarterback thing, it's real. And again, I don't even like calling it that, but it's more like when you have that athleticism, it helps keep these guys on their toes. And Troy was magnificent, man. And obviously everyone remembers the throw to Gonzo. San Antonio was killing these guys too, and they called that stupid penalty on him when he dove in the end zone. But I remember we went down the field, man, and we just kept running the same play to San Antonio, and they couldn't cover him, and then we run it in them with Pitt. But what a it was a grind. Like I said, it was scary just because we were down. And I thank God every day for Troy Smith. If we don't have Troy, this isn't, all the guys from my era that have all these gold pants and all these records and all this whatever, it's Troy. It's because of Troy. Without Troy, there's no chance. And again, I know it's a team game and I get that, but when you've got a guy who's just a killer and he's ice cold and he's like that dude, I mean, he wills us to win, and he willed us. And when the lights were bright, man, Troy, like that 06 Michigan game, that 05 Michigan game, the 04 Michigan game. I mean, you look at his 3 Michigan games, I mean, arguably 3 of the best performances in the history versus good teams. Like, again, we can argue stats and say that they beat the tar out of, some bad Michigan team and put up bigger numbers or whatever. But I'm talking about like versus like first rounders all across the board. And Lloyd Carr, still had a good coach. And I don't know. Like I said, that was, that last drive was crazy because, we knew what was at stake. I mean, we're playing to save our season, and there weren't playoffs back then. I would have loved this team to have been a playoff team because our 05 team with our defense was good, but Bobby Carpenter got hurt on the first or second drive of the game, got his leg broke by Jake Long, and our defense stepped up with James Laurinaitis, and we played a lot of nickel that day, so we only had Schlegs and AJ on the field. But yeah, I mean, winning in the big house is so hard to do. And you take it however you can get it, and you don't remember a lot of the stats. All you remember is that you win, and you have a fun bus ride home. That's the thing about, like, when you play Michigan, you ride the bus home. So it's there is some alcohol flowing, and we're smoking cigars in the locker room, and it's a fun ride home because it's a good 3.5 hours, but you're with your boys, and it's just fun. So I'm actually gonna break down the very end of this because I was actually stalling, as I'm sure you guys could tell, to watch the very end of this, so we can get this thing on here real quick. So this is 05. This is grainy, so this isn't HD footage, but this is, you got the old school cameras. So this is the Gonzo play. So they're kind of a pressure look. There's your boy at right tackle locking the guy down. Troy, this is funny with Troy because he steps up in the pocket here, and it kind of people think he's going to take off, and then he steps back. So it looks like he's got to scramble, and then it kind of closes off, and he steps back here and scrambles out, and he finds Gonzo, and Gonzo makes this crazy catch, in the traffic. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, me and Dadish were the first guys down there because we're like, oh my God, he caught that. I was like, oh my God, he caught that. Because like I'm right here and I see the ball sailing and I see Gonzo jump and I'm like, oh my God, please. When his back's to you, you're like, did it bounce off the carpet? And this guy's signaling catch. And I'm just like dying. I was like, I can't believe he came up with that. So here's the back end. And again, like this is Pierre Woods, who's a Glenville guy. He's like one of the last guys from Glenville to go there because they didn't like how they treated him. But there's Woodley, second rounder. Crable was a third rounder. Branch was, a really, really good player. So they've got named, Prescott again. Prescott Burgess. The whole world ended when we didn't get Prescott. I remember that. He was in my signing day class, and he went to Michigan. And when we didn't get Crable and Prescott Burgess, it was like cancel get rid of the entire team. Cancel Ohio State football. We'll never win again. And those bums went over. David Harris was captain of the Jets, second round pick, really good player. So I mean, they had brand name guys. So Troy steps up, and again, this is Matt. Again, this is the captain of the Jets, 10-year NFL guy, Pro Bowler, and Troy's got him, and then he doesn't. Troy evades him, and he throws this ball to Gonzo, and I'm just like, this is nuts. So then, they'd scouted us because we were. I can't remember what we ran here. What did we run? Oh, we ran option here. We ran 8 load. So they bring an edge guy. I mean, if Troy, there's no way Troy's pitching this. He's not going to risk a fumble. But if Troy pitches this is a walk-in touchdown. So I mean, it's like, but Troy was not going to risk pitching it and dropping it. So we run like a heavy option play over here, and it's there. I mean, this is Nick. This is tough on Nick. Nick's got to go all the way to Crable. But we've got, I'm thinking Troy's going to loop right up in here. But really, I mean, if we wanted to do this right, TJ would stay on Crable longer and help Nick here. And then, I mean, we got these guys dead to rights. And then Troy's going to run right up in here because that's where he always ran this play. But we just, and they bring an edge guy. But I mean, Troy's not going to risk pitching this on the 2-yard line. And this edge guy gets a hand on it. And then we're all goats. So he eats it, which is fine. And then this has got to be, this is Pitt. I'm sure this is going to be 47. Yeah, this is Pitt. And we were a real heavy run to the right team all year. So we ran left this time to the wide side of the field, get the double team, and Pitt runs in the end zone. And I mean, you'll talk about ecstatic. I'm not doing anything. I'm backside hinge. This is the easiest block in football. I'm versus Woodley, and I make sure that he doesn't get there and kind of, again, my only job is to make sure he doesn't slant in there. So super easy, but this is great by Dadish, right on the front. He's playing left tackle with Rob Sims, and we smash Massey down. And again, the linebacker's not good here.
Now, question: Stan White, great block, or greatest block by Stan White there on that play?
No, it's really good. I mean, again, and again, that's Prescott Burgess, 5-star. Who, again, when we didn't get him in recruiting, it was the end of days. It was cancel the season. Jim Tressel sucks. Ohio State sucks. We suck. Message boards on fire because Prescott Burgess didn't go to Ohio State. And here's him getting his ass kicked by Stan White on the goal line. Mr. 5-star. And Stan, who's a really tough kid, great kid, puts him on the ground. Again, when you needed Prescott the most, he gave you the lace right on his butt. And Pitt, he thumps this guy right in the end zone. And again, this is, you want to talk about euphoria. Like, I'm on the backside here, and when I see Pitts over here with his arm up in the air, and I know that he got in and we didn't fumble and we didn't get tackled on the 1-yard line, and the entire stadium is silent except for the little tiny sections of Ohio State fans. I mean, the greatest feeling in the world. Because as fun as it is to win in Ohio Stadium, it's a million times more fun to win in Ann Arbor. Like, it's a billion times more fun because you get to send all their pretentious moron fans home sad and depressed, and there's just nothing better in the world. So it was a great bus ride home. I love Troy Smith and those guys to death. And like I said, you never know who, when their number is called, is going to get to be the hero. And like Stan White did great there. And Stan was a great kid, really smart guy. Your dad obviously played there for a long time, played for Woody. But like I said, I mean, if any fan in the universe said, "Hey, would you rather have Stan White or Prescott?" It's like, well, at that moment, Stan owned him, and it was amazing. 'Cause like I said, I loved that play. I loved getting it in on the 1-yard line, running our signature play that we ran 80 million times, and what a good feeling. Because again, I know most of our fan base had probably jumped off the bridge when we were down like 9 points with 7 minutes to go, but we didn't. We had to keep playing, and that's why you keep playing. And like I said, I thank God for Troy Smith and Santonio Holmes and Nick Mangold and AJ Hawk and all those guys, because we had some dogs. Dante Whitner. I mean, Dante Whitner was ripping Ted apart on the sideline when he muffed that punt. Because again, you can't do that in a game like that. You can't have. And again, I love Ted Ginn, but when you screw up, you need to be held accountable. And Dante was going crazy. And again, I love Dante Whitner too. All right. A great question, Sean. Appreciate you. Geodit42, thank you for the 5. We just flipped Jordan Woods. Ryan Day waits for no one. 6'3", 175-pound athletic cornerback prospect for 2025. Good. Well, I mean, guys better jump in the boat quick. I mean, again, we've got expanded rosters coming. I think we're on to like 125. So we're going to be offered more scholarships, and it is kind of sad. We're going to be cutting these walk-ons. So these walk-ons are going to have their last shot in the shoe. So if I was Ryan Day, I'd probably let those guys run out on senior day, because a lot of those guys are going to be getting cut because we have 125 scholarships now. So you can't have all the guys that we normally have on the roster. So appreciate that. Gio did. I'll get his highlights up for tomorrow. Poohbeard 12, thank you for the 5 regarding David Sanders Jr. OSU's medical school is by every ranking objective measure better than University of Tennessee's. University of Tennessee's medical school is also located 390 miles away in Memphis. Really? I don't know that. I mean, I believe you, but that's not a drive. That's 6 hours. You know? I mean, 60 times 6. That's a long drive. Nevada. You think that would have came up for David Sanders before he committed? That, hey, by the way, our medical school is in Memphis. But Poohbeard, I mean, he's a doctor. He knows what he's talking about. But I've never heard that. I assume it's true because Poohbeard's saying it. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure that they have some sort of medical thing there, but yeah, there's no question the prestige of the Ohio State medical program compared to Tennessee's, it's a different ball game altogether. And if that becomes the deciding factor, that's a huge advantage for Ohio State.
Yeah, agree. And it's right on campus, 5 minutes from Liberty Hayes. Dave Mathis, thanks for the deuce. Appreciate you. Thank you for being on as well. I just want us to get out healthy as can be. Nevada OH. I mean, I say that about every game. Again, I always tell people, I'm like, look, you can't take for granted walking off the field. I mean, Seth McLaughlin, I mean, he woke up one day with a good Achilles and went to bed one day without an Achilles. So, I mean, you can't take it for granted, So, again, pray to God every day that you're going to wake up and be okay and be healthy. And that goes for life too, because no one's promised tomorrow, no one's promised their health. But I appreciate that, Dave. Jeremy G, thank you for the 5. I don't understand how the cheaters that both flips Underwood and have recruiting momentum without certainty from the NCAA is CNN, MSNBC doing sports news now. That's pretty funny. That's like our Ohio State beat. They're the CNN and MSNBC of Ohio State. I think that he got offered a lot of money. He took it. But I'm sure that once the hammer comes, like these kids, it's not going to look real attractive to go to Michigan. These kids want to play in bowl games. They want to play in the playoff. They want to be a part of the excitement. And Michigan's going to get nuked to the Stone Age. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the momentum, it's kind of, I mean, I don't want to get political, but like when the narrative comes out, we're full of joy and we've got the momentum. And like, sometimes it's just a bunch of baloney. Like with Michigan, they got a kid to stay home by throwing $13 million at him. That's it. That's the answer. That's the momentum. So, and it's a kid that can leave at any time with instantaneous free agency. And as soon as the NCAA, issues their ruling, he can leave. So, Michigan is fool's gold. They have no recruiting base. They've got a terrible coaching staff, and they're going to get hammered by the NCAA. So people can believe it or not, but we told you before the season when Michigan was a preseason top 10 team that they were going to stink, and now they're 6-6. So who has the credibility when talking about Michigan's program more than us? And I think the answer is nobody. But they're bad this year. They're going to be worse in the future. And Bryce Underwood or whatever is not going to help them.
Are you saying that nobody has it better than us?
I did say nobody has it better than us. No, nobody has it better than nobody has it better than us. Nobody has it better than us.
Nobody except for the LA Chargers.
Scooby Wright.
He'll never be a Buckeye. Allie,
never. He was never going to be a Buckeye.
Pedro's Lucerio, thanks for the deuce. No special unis for the game. If not, that sucks. Nevada, what are your thoughts on special unis for the game?
I love it. I love all that stuff. I wish they'd have it, but hey, maybe someday they'll actually pull off a surprise and get it. But Ohio State hasn't been particularly good at that. But maybe with the new regime they'll do that. But I'd love to see them pull one out and just come out with a special uni and have nobody know about it. They go out in warm ups, one thing, and come out in the special unis and just go crazy. But they don't need any more motivation this week. They're gonna be off the chart excited for Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. I like our tradition. You know what? I'd love if we wore our reds and they wore their blues, like UCLA and USC. That looks sweet. Ryan Piper, thank you for the 5. Is it possible that Scum wants an extension to prolong sanctions past early signing day? I don't know. I mean, I don't. The problem with signing days, it doesn't really matter at all anymore because people are literally in the portal. Like I mean, Julian Sane, signed, and then he was in the portal like 2 weeks later, going to Ohio State. So I don't think it really matters, honestly. That's just my thought. Nevada, your thoughts? Do you think it's possible that Scum wants an extension to prolong sanctions past early signing day?
No, but you have to remember what's happening now is they're responding to the NOA, and then the NCAA has 60 days to respond to their response, and then they schedule a hearing, which is probably 90 days after that, and then they go to a hearing and there's issued a final ruling. So they're even if they had responded today, you're probably talking about 6 months until they get final ruling anyway. And so that's Pat. I think the extension. I think your theorem of how they're going for the extension to continue on these conversations toward negotiated resolution is probably that's as good a theory as any.
Got it. Steve does 11-6 for the 5. Can you get Troy on the show this week? I'll shoot him a text. I'll see what he's up to. I'd love to have him maybe on Thursday and see if he can fill in and do some work. So I'll reach out to Troy. Truss is a maybe. He did a show Sunday. Yeah, I'd like to get Troy on. Troy's pretty he expounds pretty well when it comes to talking about some of these stories. And it's always fun to hear stuff from his vantage point. Him and Ted together, I think, would be really good. So all right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, it's I'm excited. If you're going to the game on Saturday, do your part. You guys showed up last week against Indiana and made a difference. It made a big difference, maybe the difference in the game. We need it again this week. We need to take it to another level, and we need to will the Buckeyes to a big victory. If I hope you're there, be loud and let's go Bucks.
Sounds perfect. All right. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Time for war, folks. It's go time, baby. It is the week of the game. No better time to join BuckeyeScoop.com. Round the clock coverage of everything breaking from the Woody Hayes. Recruiting with Bill Greene has absolutely been fantastic. So take the plunge. You guys want a great Black Friday gift for somebody? Give them the gift of Ohio State inside information, especially as we get into these playoffs. This is going to be the greatest stretch in Ohio State history. So get ready for it. BuckeyeScoop.com. If you have any questions on how to sign up for membership, send us a note, BuckeyeScoop@gmail.com, and Nevada and I will reach out to you immediately. So again, I appreciate you guys so much. Again, if you guys enjoy this content, you can really help us out by subscribing to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those are two mediums we're trying to grow. And you guys have been doing that. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you for that, as always. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow night, 7:10. We'll be rolling. Can't wait to see you guys then. You guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.